I've been a therapist for 25 years and I love that work and continue to juggle that along with my world as a singer-songwriter. I can get my feelings hurt that I wasn't a finalist, but I can also really use that to I would just want to write damn better songs. This is the funny thing that happens to me when you ask me about Bend in the Middle. My intro for that song ends up being longer than the song itself.
Welcome to another episode of In the Chair with. Today we are in the chair with Jeremy Dion. He is a singer-songwriter hailing out of Boulder, Colorado. His discography includes a wide array of folk music for us adults, but then also some releases that are children's music. So we're going to talk to Jeremy about writing and performing for really all ages. And he's gotten some really cool accolades that I want to touch on, but just right away, Jeremy, welcome. We
Thank
are in
you.
the chair with Jeremy.
Awesome. Thank you, Wiley. I'm really psyched to be here and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about all my favorite things.
We I just mentioned to you off camera before that I had the pleasure of reviewing your album back in October, and maybe let's start with that title track, "Bend in the Middle." I think is an extraordinary song, especially in today's times. Can you talk about maybe the inspiration for that album or that song?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you for the setup. I appreciate you reviewing that album. That meant a lot to me, actually. And I love talking about Bend in the Middle as an album and the title track. So, the song in particular, so this was album number 5 for me. Some will say number 4 because there was an EP along the way. But for me, this was still my 5th big project. And so to me, those were albums. Bend in the Middle as a song came on the heels of me actually spending a week with my mother, whom I adore. We're very close. I love my mother. She is an incredible human, and she is really rigid about the world. This is not news to me, right? But I just kind of lived it in a new way after this particular visit, and it led to the song in particular. What I meant by that is she, and I can be like this too, finds herself really bothered by how everyone else is living, right? Because she's very rigid and there's a right way to do everything. This is certainly how I grew up, from the right way to load the dishwasher to parking your car to the kind of clothes you wear, whatever this is, right? My mom has very specific ideas. The upshot of that, of course, is that we all know there's loads of different people in the world doing it all sorts of different ways. Thank goodness. But my poor mother finds herself really bothered by all these people because in her mind, look at all these people not doing it the right way, right? I've been a therapist for 25 years. I work with kids and teenagers and families, and I love that work and continue to juggle that along with my world as a singer-songwriter. And after spending that time with my mom and kind of noticing how bothered she is and putting that together a little bit with what I see with a lot of my clients, including myself, here's what that song then was really about for me. So it's kind of twofold. One is, again, keeping with the theme of my mom, what I know that is at the core of her botheredness, her being really upset and frustrated with all these people, is her sort of inability to tolerate her own feelings. To be honest, she hasn't done a lot of her own kind of inner work. So she thinks that all these things out here are controlling her distress. If that person would just park their car differently, I wouldn't feel so bad. So darn it, why don't they do this, right? It's a common sort of conundrum, but it's really sort of chasing our tail because you cannot make everybody park the right way. You've probably noticed this. No matter what your thing is, no one's going to do it the right way, at least all of the time, and certainly not everybody. So the only other option, if we want to live a happier life, which then dovetails with what mental wellness and mental health is all about, is feeling good more of the time. But that requires us to kind of do more of our inner work and relax more and let that person, let's say, park the car that way or wear those clothes or listen to that kind of music or whatever the thing is that was bothering us, right? So to go a little further, what I know now as a therapist is we all, especially as little people, we all got feedback from people that we tended to put on a bit of a pedestal to some degree, or we thought they were authority figures. We got some feedback from them that there were parts of us that weren't quite right. We were too much this or we're too much that, or I was told to read my book a lot because I'm intense. I want to talk and I want to know everything about everybody all the time. And so my people started saying, Jerry, go read your book for a little while and give us a break, right? So we all get this feedback around the parts of us that don't quite fit. what I now know, and so we tend to then contort ourselves in funny positions to try to accommodate that feedback, and it doesn't work very well. And then we get to middle age or later adulthood, and we see that we're sort of not functioning as well as we want to be. Point being, those pieces we were getting feedback about are actually like linked with our superpowers, like our quirks, the things about us that stand out are really some of our greatest gifts. And we got really unfortunate news early about like trying to disconnect from those parts. And what I now know, what the whole song around Bend in the Middle is about, is I hope people will sort of understand a little, even a little of what I'm just talking about now, do their own work internally to kind of get okay with who they are and all the feelings and thoughts that happen with them, even when they see that person doing the thing that bothers them, right? We need to learn how to work this out on the inside. And then, two, can we just stop being so bothered about how everyone else is living and spend so much more time just focused on how I'm doing? And if I'm reacting to that all the time, the thing on Facebook or in the news, whatever, then it's like got me. They've got me off my center, and now I'm all frustrated and reacted. And there are ways of just chilling out, settling in, letting that person do whatever it is they're doing that I found bothersome, realizing that all is well. I can handle my own thoughts and feelings and stay in myself right now and not make it so much about them. So this is the funny thing that happens to me when you ask me about Bend in the Middle. My intro for that song ends up being longer than the song itself, which I really need to work on. But that's sort of the gist. It ties together sort of what I know as a therapist, what I know from my own family, and truly my wish for all of us that we chill out more. That's what I summarize it with.
Yeah, that's powerful. If by the end of this interview you need to send me an invoice for a therapy session, let me know. But I'm
Done.
just thinking I might be in ways the polar opposite from your mom. Instead of everything out there bothering me, at some point in my life I decided no external stress would bother me, which is also problematic because then people are doing things that should bother you and raise some hackles.
You might need to work on your boundaries, in other words, Wiley.
Right. Oh my gosh. So thank you, Jeremy. This is
Yeah. And by the way, I don't know if you can, there's like an epic hailstorm happening in this moment. This is typical Colorado. I'm in Boulder, and this is like we are having monumental hail right now go on. So I don't know if you can hear that, but it's
wow. Not at
yeah.
all. This is great.
Yeah.
That song really jumped out at me, and I think because from family differences, or certainly I don't want to open the Pandora's box of what's happening in the U.S. politically or whatever. But even on the playground with Jane and Jimmy
Yep.
over a toy, all of us, there's such a tendency to bristle at
Totally.
things.
But they did that. Look at what they did. What do you mean Jeremy let that go and not pay attention to the they did that thing? This is the common pitfall that we all find ourselves in, right? Whether it's driving in traffic and somebody cuts me off, or I think they did. They're in a hurry and they just zoop. My initial reaction is to be mad, whether I honk or I'm stewed up for a little bit or whatever. Man, what a lot of wasted energy, because that sort of thing happens all the time. All
Yeah.
the time. We can be bothered as much as we want, or we can use that as grist for the mill and go, ooh, there's that tendency in me to be really upset. And I have other moves too.
Absolutely. So yeah, if those of you watching this, if you haven't gone to listen to Bend in the Middle by Jeremy Dion, go do that. It's just going to make your day better.
It's a groovy song, right? That one gets stuck in my own head too, which
Yeah.
always, as a songwriter, is always a good sign, I think.
It's got a hook too. It's just got a great hook. I want to talk a little bit about, because it is one thing to see a topic in your life and write a song about it. Sometimes people write good songs for that, and sometimes not. But
Yep.
uh, No Depression magazine, which is incredibly reputable in the alt folk Americana realm,
Yep.
they did qualify it by saying you're not there yet, but you are on the doorstep of a Tim Harden or Townes Van Zandt. And that just made me say, whoa.
Me too, man. That was a big deal. I like that.
Yeah, other than elated, how does that make you feel as a person who takes feelings and puts them into words
Yeah,
and music?
good question. You're the first person to ask me about that quote, so I'm appreciating that, Wiley. It's mixed, to be honest. So I have what are describing as like I that is what a compliment. That is an incredible compliment, especially Townes Van Zandt. Like I put him on a really high pedestal, and so to be anywhere in that conversation, I'm in. And then there is the ego part of me that's like, wait, I'm only on the doorstep. That was a really good song I wrote right there. And I just take it as again more fodder for I mean, so I'm at this place in my career. So I've been doing this 20 plus years. I've been churning out kind of albums, especially lately, and working at this. And I'm the guy who enters a lot of songwriting competitions. And every year, like Kerrville or Telluride and Lions here in Colorado, whatever, most of the time I'm not a finalist. Almost all the time. Every once in a while, I kind of crack in there. So I get these being the life of an artist, right, is always an interesting walk around. We have ego and there's heart and there's these pieces that are always sort of in flux as humans that like I can get my feelings hurt that I wasn't a finalist, but I can also really use that to like, I would just want to write damn better songs. I got to get better at the craft is what I'm trying to do. So I work at this, man. I mean, I have a vocal coach. I've even got a songwriting person that when I feel like I've got something sort of decent, I call him up and we'll do some sessions and I'll bounce some ideas off him. He's like a pro sort of hit songwriter guy. And I go to a lot of conferences like Folk Alliance conferences or the Durango Songwriting Expo. So I keep just kind of dipping my feet in the pool, as it were, and trying to become a better writer. So to your point, I loved that quote. I love getting reviewed in No Depression. That meant a lot to me. And I want to be in that damn room with Townes Van Zandt the next time they write about us.
Words like that, it's easy to say no. No one review is going to make you or break you.
Of course.
If no matter what the feedback is, but you get to choose how it's going to fuel your process.
Yeah.
A lot of people would have gotten that and said, "I'm on the doorstep of Townes Van Zandt. Done.
Right. First, I've arrived.
I can quit now." And just
If only nice quotes paid the bills.
yeah. But I love that you have that balance of, well, if I'm still on the doorstep, damn it, I've got some work to do.
To be honest, man, I have really big goals. I mean, I want to win Grammys and I want to play Red Rocks regular. I know people who do this regularly. I've opened for the people who now sell out Red Rocks and stuff. And I can see the pathway there. And so there's always more that I want. But what I know now more than ever is what I'm wanting to just feel good and have a really good time. And there was a time and a place where I used to say to people outwardly, when my music reaches a place where it can replace my income as a therapist, I want to make that switch because I'm really the musician guy who's just sort of waiting to launch. And that has really shifted in the last 5 to 10 years. I don't know that I will ever quit being a therapist, in part because, sort of thank you, COVID, now everything is virtual. I see all my clients from this home office here, which I can then even do on the road as I'm on tour or something. So the world has shifted in that degree. And now I don't know that I'll have to choose between the two.
Yeah.
We'll see. I mean, when John Mayer really does want me to go on tour with him, that might change some things. I don't know if I can still see clients, but we'll see.
Um, I've had that discussion with my parents, not so much anymore since I'm an adult, but back in the college days of what would it take for it to be worth it to quit school or quit a job or whatever. And it's an interesting balance, and there's no right answer.
That's right. It's quality of life questions, I think. And my answer for what quality of life looks like continues to shift, right? As my daughter is now 19 and in college, it looks different now than it did 5 years ago. And it'll probably look different 5 years from now. I love it. Actually, I'm having the best time I've had with it all, and it just keeps getting better.
That's cool. Something that you said, I think would really it is good advice. I mean, especially for younger musicians before they go through the decades of strife and turmoil. But
Yep.
you have had some successful feedback, some successful experiences, and not resting on your laurels. I think it's so impressive. You're like, well, now that I've gotten to this point, I need to have more singing lessons. I need to have more writing sessions,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it's you're not just there. The idea of perpetual growth is in an artist, I think, is very important.
I totally agree. And us as humans, right? I would say the same thing. I don't know if we're having our therapy session or talking about music because it's sort of the same, right? Like our continued sort of growth and unfolding of who we are. I can't. For the last 2 years, I've been fairly focused as a musician because I was finishing the album Bend in the Middle, which came out in October last year. And then I was finishing this kids album that you referenced, which is called Another Perfect Day. It comes out in September. So for the last 2 years, I've just been honing those particular songs and finishing them or tweaking some lyrics and getting the musicians, etc., making the records. And I haven't been writing a ton of new material because that has been so much at the forefront. And I'm really excited now that the kids album's done. I'm about to go do some touring, etc. But I kind of can't wait to see what happens next because it's the first time in a couple years that I haven't had a laid out plan for what these next couple weeks and months are going to look like. And maybe I'll write nothing, or maybe I'll start writing in a whole different direction. I have no idea. I'm not attached. I'm just very curious about what that's going to be like.
Uh, that's amazing because I think it's always good to have a plan. But if your plan is to have a period where there's not a plan, that's a plan
Right.
in itself
It's
of a
very unlike me, Wiley. I gotta say, I do have my mother's like it needs to look a certain way in me, very much so. That's a new posture for me, but it feels so good and so right. I've been spending a little extra time in the mountains here in Colorado, fishing, and I do some watercolor painting. I'm doing these other things to just fuel my soul, and then we'll see what it wants to do next.
when I am I am not much of a songwriter. Since high school, I wrote some really, really bad songs. But I want to write songs, and so I use these interviews in part to steal other people's ideas.
Great, I'm happy to share.
Uh, when I talk to many artists about what inspires you to write, when do you get that idea and decide to write it?
Yep,
A lot of people will say, well, I have my day job takes up this time, or maybe kids, or maybe just life.
yep,
And so they turn to music as their emotional outlet. Like
sure. Yeah,
music is my therapy.
yes.
You are so aware and professionally practicing therapy. How is that similar or different from
Yeah,
what makes you turn to write a song?
good question. There's an element of that for sure where it certainly is my therapy. I don't know that writing a song is my therapy, but picking up the guitar and playing and moving stuff through. I often just sort of play stream of consciousness. It's sort of a loose writing process. I just find some chords or I'm playing something that sounds neat and maybe I hear the timing of a phrase. So this is actually my writing process. I always start with music. I can't hear lyrics or anything unless I have the chords or I know where the shape of some kind of melodic hook or something is going. So I have to have music first. Usually that's guitar for me, but sometimes it's piano. Once I have a chord progression or the music, then I try to relax my mind a little and not overthink about what this is about. I just want to hear it and feel what the song sort of wants. And I listen for what usually pokes through first is my languaging around it is like the phrasing of the chorus. Da 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 da. But I don't know the words yet. I don't even have a concept of the meaning, but I'll start to hear the rhythm of words that I want. Maybe even like the vowel sound will start to come through. It's this very weird kind of like subconscious process. I used to think it was really unique. I've talked to so many songwriters. I now know that it's pretty common-ish around this sort of stream of consciousness. Start with music, listen for some kind of phrasing. Maybe now I'll get an actual phrase, which is usually the chorus or part of the chorus. And now I feel like I've just picked up a novel and turned to the middle and read a page or two. And if that's happening here, now I'm going to start over and write the book song up until now to make it make sense. So that's almost always the way it goes for me. I do keep a list of things like on a notebook or in my phone about a word or a phrase or an idea that caught my ear that I want to work into a song, or as I think of them as like a song starter. So if now I have this kind of phrase and I've got some chords, but I have no idea what I want to write about, I usually will turn to that list and go, oh, that's a cool line. I wonder if that would fit. Okay, maybe this whole song's about that, actually. What's that going to mean? Or occasionally I come in with a more well formulated idea that I'm going to write about this issue or this person or this trauma or this celebration or whatever it is. But usually it's more nebulous for me and we kind of find our way as I'm writing. 10 to 15 years ago, I wrote in a much more nebulous way, I think, kind of on purpose, where I almost didn't want people to really totally know what it was about. I wanted it to stay poetic enough and them to just kind of be guessing at that. And I've just noticed as I've gotten more clear as an adult and who I am and what I'm doing in the world, my songs have had it started to have some more specificity to them. I'm still very into like poetic sort of pieces and how the words are singing and sounding, right? That's really important to me. But I do find that I don't know, I get maybe it's more confident in my writing and I'm willing to have people really know what they're about now or something. I don't know, but something is shifting as I'm kind of honing in on some stuff here. And it's been interesting to see the way that shows up in the songwriting.
That's funny. Sorry, so I'm kind of a hard rock fan from back
Yeah,
in the day, and I'm thinking about interviews with the singer of Def Leppard, who he
I
is.
love Def Leppard.
Oh, yeah. In their songwriting process, they'll have a riff, and he'll just kind of say or write the first words that pop into mind during a melodic,
Yeah, think of that.
and
Yeah.
then write a song around those random words that come up.
That
Um,
was so cool. I've never heard that actually, but I've done similar exercises in some classes and things, and that I find that fascinating. And I think there's something that within us that underlies all of our creative impulses that we can trust. I mean, that's what I hear in that story, Wiley, is like whatever those weird initial hits on that phrasing, like there's some part of us. One of my favorites, Daryl Scott. He's this kind of bluegrassy Nashville writer. He's got the most amazing voice I know, and he plays guitar and mandolin and banjo and all these amazing things. He often writes the songs that then other people make famous, like the Dixie Chicks, or take his kind of country-ish songs and make them big, but he's the writer. Anyway, I attended this thing with Daryl Scott, and he referenced this thing. He said, sometimes if I'm stuck on a song or something, or it's not quite coming together, put it aside and I just leave it alone. Maybe it's for a day or a week or maybe even months, but I'm convinced that he says there's a part of us that continues to work on that song in the background. And then when you go pick it up later, it's in a different place. God, I got goosebumps when I first heard him say that, but and as I am now telling it, but I know that that's true. I know that there's something weird that goes on in the background that shouts out those initial Def Leppard things to the phrasing that have some legs or something, right? It's so wild the way we are so much more powerful and capable than most of us give credit for.
uh,
We are way more magical than we think, right? But
that
I think
gives
that's
me hope because I'm not much of a guitarist. I know my 10 basic chords or whatever,
a good
but I have
start.
had a guitar chord progression in my head for about 20 years. And I'm just waiting.
It's time,
It's
Wiley.
time. Maybe
Try
this
the,
afternoon.
try the Def Leppard method. Just start playing it and see what words come to you. I'm serious. It's the craziest thing.
No,
I had
that's
this one class where they gave us like a visual photograph and said, write a song to this. Whoa, okay, interesting. Or, I mean, there's so many different ways to just sort of unlock it because we all get like, it's like if somebody says, stand up there and give a speech to everybody. We all kind of go, I don't know. But if it's like, no, wait, you can like talk about the thing you know best. Is oh, okay, I can. Right. So we get ways where we get really locked up in our minds, and around songwriting is certainly one of those, right? So I love that you have that chord progression and it hasn't left you. When I'm writing and noodling on the guitar, if there's a hook or something there, I kind of go, okay, interesting. If it's still there the next time in my conscious sort of mind and I pick it up again, now I know it might have some legs. 20 years is amazing. I can't wait to hear the song then.
if I write it, I will look you up that day and
I'm
I'll
counting on it.
I'll reference this timestamp in this interview.
Great, exactly.
Um, a couple of things I definitely want to hit on. One, I think it's in one of your press kits or press releases or something like that. The phrase "relentlessly optimistic," and I can see that in the songs of yours that I've listened to. I don't know if this is going to go in a dark way, but do you do you write on the other side too of I'm sad today, there's a hailstorm, it's dark, and right into pessimism
Yeah,
or
perfect.
sadness?
Great. Love it. I have, but not for a while. And here's sort of why. Um, Partly, I think it's twofold. One is that I tend to write sort of wherever I am. And so, to be really honest, my life in the last several years has trended in just the most beautiful direction. I'm like happier than I've ever been. Things are going so well. I'm doing all these things that I wanted to be doing, right? That's a piece of it. So, that's just kind of front and center. There certainly was a time, I'm thinking back in particular around a song of mine that was a title track of album number three, I think called More Lately, where I was going through this huge transition in my world. And the short version of that is I was transitioning from having a wife to now having a husband. And that was a really interesting transition, as you can imagine, with a lot involved. I'd already had a daughter, and it was just very complicated. and beautiful. Certainly that time though, and that song in particular is really like angsty and painful and kind of dark and about the sort of underbelly of like I'm sort of coming out because I guess this is who I am, but I really don't want to because I know it's like not the direction I kind of should be going and all these just kind of complicated sort of pieces. Two sort of things though to answer your question further, Wiley. So yes, I tend to, not so much lately. Well, number one, because I'm in a really good zone and move in the direction I want to. But here's sort of number two, why I think I'm not so much, and it's a philosophical position. What I know about our brains now in any one moment is we could find thoughts that align with something that feels bad. I could look at my news feed right now and go, ugh, I don't like that particular piece of news. Or I could find something to think about and tune into that feels sort of good, that I'm getting to talk to you and it's really enjoyable, whatever the things are, right? Those are always available to us at any moment of the day. And here's the kicker, number two, wherever we choose, we'll start to grow and gain momentum. So if I start thinking about what sucks right now and what I'm worried about or scared about, I can always find those. And if I sit over there for a few seconds, even if I think about that and I go, yeah, I'm really worried about that, or if I talk to someone else about it, it is inevitable that my brain will grab another example of something I'm also worried and scared about. And we get going. And now I'm on a bit of a rant. It's not that these things aren't untrue. These are real things in my life or in our politics or whatever. It doesn't really matter. But all I know is there are things that when I think about them emotionally and energetically, I go, womp. I don't like it. It's real, it's true, but it's not feeling very good. Because I know how this process works so just within my own body, I've become scrupulous on sort of where I tend to put my time and energy because of what I want to grow. Am I sometimes sad about X and Y or something, or stressed or scared? Or, yeah, for sure. I'm a human on the planet and I drive in traffic and I'm aware of the news, whatever the things are. But I am also really critically aware of how I want to feel and where I want my life to go. And so I pay really particular attention to like, am I watering the weeds? The stuff that's like not what I want, but there it is. And oh my God, did you see what he said today? And like, am I watering those? Because they'll grow. Is that what I'm talking about with my partner or my kid or my clients? Am I talking about the bad news things? Because those are always there. But if I do that, you know this as well as I do, Wiley. Like if I choose to talk to my friend about, let's say, my marital struggles, right? We go to lunch and I'm in a mood and I want to talk about that. Guess what they ask me about next time? Hey, how's that going? Remember how you told me that problem? How? And they think they're being so caring, and they probably are, but I'm in a really different place now. And I don't want to go back there. I don't want to talk about that stuff. But I put it out there, and so now I got you on board with it, and now you're more likely to like water those with me.
Yeah.
Even though you love me and you're trying to help and you think you're being so caring, right? So I know I'm going on and on, but I am judicious as I can be about my energy and my time. And I know where I want to water because I know I want to play Red Rocks. And I know I want to make so many more albums and all the things that are sort of on my list.
Yeah.
And I'm certain that the path to get there has everything to do with me staying in a pretty good feeling place.
Hmm.
This is a tricky discussion though, because a lot of people will then say, well, are you just putting on your blinders? Are you just not paying attention to the things that are going on in the world and these people that are really hurting? That's a long discussion. It's a really interesting debate that I have internally sometimes and ongoing with the humans that I care about.
I laughed toward the beginning of that because as you were describing different emotions and nurturing the positive ones and this and that, I pictured my backyard and I said, well, that sounds like you don't go put fertilizer on the weeds and then put your sunflowers, in the dark,
Exactly right. Correct.
nip the weeds, and then you fertilize the sunflowers.
To me, that is the most fascinating concept that if I talk to you about my problems, we sometimes we have this weird conception that I'm somehow venting or something, but I'm actually adding more to my problems by talking about them and by sharing them with you. And now I've got you involved with that. I just added more weight to the things I'm not wanting. Not that I don't do that sometimes, right? We can all do versions of this, but now I know the outcome and where those paths lead. And I want my ship to sail over here. Hence the kids album and all this feel good stuff, right? Because I want to go over here. Which, to be fair, politically, with all the interesting things that have happened in the last 6 months in particular, but even longer than that, It's like if those messages are so alive in the world and people are so hurting over some of this and division and hatred and all this stuff, whoa, did that help me galvanize my message of what I wanted to be singing about and what I wish all of our kindergartners and first graders were singing about, how good they feel and how fun it is to be around other friends and how much they love each other and just all the stuff that we long for, right? We all know the same stuff.
Yeah.
We just get sidetracked.
Uh, Gosh, I could continue this part of the conversation for another hour or two. But
Right. I love it.
that's
I
no, that's super powerful. I've noticed some people, and I think this goes for when you arrive at a new venue and you meet the booking agent or the door person, the words that are said in that first exchange, you're like, oh, that's Joe, the door guy. He ran late today and is in a bad mood. That's the definition of
Yeah,
Joe.
exactly. And he hates the sound guy, apparently, because he just sort of crap about him. So interesting dynamic I'm into, right?
Um, no, it's funny. I've noticed bits of that in Friends. It's funny. Five different friends go on vacations. They come back. You say, "How was your vacation?"
Ah,
And the lead is not Mexico is great.
right?
Oh, the sea, the sand. It was, oh, our luggage.
Exactly.
Oh, they were out of
Flights
the
were
prime
late.
rib.
Yep. The flights were late. The crying baby on the flight. I got Montezuma's all the we look over here all the time.
Yeah. No,
It's just a
that's
habit, right? Our lives, this is true for all of us. Our lives are unfolding in a way that reveals our habits of thought. And if you start to get that, we have control over our habits of thought. But how things are unfolding and churning out are just revealing how we think about our world. And if it doesn't feel like anything's changing, your thoughts about you aren't changing. They can, but you're just sort of stuck in the ruts that we all can get into.
yeah.
So I'm
There
at
was
that point, Wiley. I know a lot of those people too who go on the vacations and then come home and tell me all the stuff that wasn't awesome. It's really interesting, isn't it?
a bit of a turning point. My wife and I were on a vacation in Mexico, and we both came down with upper respiratory, maybe nasal infections or whatever. So we're at a beautiful resort, the weather's great, and we feel bad. And we had a conversation like, man, do we cancel and go back home? And then we had this thought of, we're in a beautiful place.
Yeah,
If we go home, we're going to be sick there.
exactly.
We're sick in a beautiful place. Let's enjoy it.
Yeah, great one. I love that. Good process.
Uh, but yeah, I don't want to accrue a therapy bill here. So let's go ahead and you're doing a tour through Colorado, up a little more north, a little more west.
Through Utah and into Idaho, and I'm from the Northwest and Seattle area, so I'm gonna go home and see family in Seattle and catch some shows in Oregon along the way. And so I think I've got 6 shows over 7 nights or something. It'd be great.
Uh, that's fantastic. Have you toured? Have your shows brought you to Texas at all?
The only time I've played in Texas was when I was in the Wildflower Festival that was Dallas, I think. So I was like in the songwriter competition. I was the finalist in one of those that I mentioned. I think it's the
Okay.
Wildflower competition. Yeah, Dallas Fort Worth area. So that's the only time, but it's on my list because Colorado's not that far away, and I know Austin in particular has certainly got a lot of my kind of music scene going on.
Yeah, and interest earlier you something in passing about Kerrville. I wonder if you
Yeah, right. It's just on my list, partly because that's like the sort of the top of the pinnacle as far as in my world. Maybe it's a little more country leaning, but it's like the songwriters that are winning those competitions are the people that I hang with, or at least want to be hanging with, and I think are writing exceptional songs. So I've never been to Kerrville, but I'm going to keep applying every year until I can get in as one of those 24 finalists. But that's a high bar. Those people are writing some really great songs, and I love what they're doing.
I do highly recommend if you have the time or whatever to go to the folk festival, even just as a
Yeah, exactly. I think
concert.
that's
Go.
a
It's
good idea.
that of Texas, just rolling hills. It's
Uh,
gorgeous.
nice.
Kerrville
Great.
is one of the brights in the state.
Cool. I
Yeah, I
did.
highly recommend checking out
Awesome.
Kerrville.
Thanks, Wiley.
Um, let's see. I want to reiterate, you've got Another Perfect Day, the
Yep.
children's music album coming out in September. Bend in the Middle came out in October of 2024. Um, the I want to talk about children's music. I have a lot of friends who have written music and put out albums and everything, and then tap into I'm going to write music directed toward children.
Yeah, isn't it funny?
Um, what how is it different? I
Yeah.
also have a friend who is a music major. He's pitch. He can play every instrument. You know, one of those guys.
Yep.
Um, who, when he had his own kid, his own child, said, I don't want to play them children's music because music is music. You know, play them Beethoven, play them this.
Interesting. Yeah, 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 yeah. Interesting.
So
Huh.
I'd love to hear your thoughts just briefly as a writer.
Yeah.
What makes it out? I want a song that, when played to a group of children, will have a reaction
Yeah.
more than the songs I've written so far in my career.
Great. Good question. Thank you. So twofold. One is when I was getting my master's degree in counseling, it was also dovetailed with a master's in music therapy. So I've always been kind of fascinated about like using music as a healing modality or somehow to like move us forward, not just as an entertainment mechanism. That's number one. Number two is I worked for 11 years as a school counselor, and I was the part-time person, and they eventually hired a full-time person. And she was in charge of telling me what the curriculum was that we were going to say, let's go teach the kindergartners this lesson on friendship or conflict resolution or something. And she came to me one time and she said, here's the lesson, and here's the song I found on YouTube to support it. You can guess where this is going. So I went and looked at the song and I said, great lesson. I want to write my own song. I think I can do better. I can hone in more on the message that we're talking about. So I did that one time. The kids really liked the song. It went really well. We started singing it around the school. It kind of took off, but I didn't think that much more of it. That happened a second time, third time, where I wrote a song specifically to cater to these lessons we're teaching. And finally, it sort of dawned on me that I'm writing a kids album, or at least this could be the start of a kids album. In fact, this is sort of perfect. To make the short story longer, Wiley, when I early in my career, when I was a therapist, I had a different way of dressing. I had literally a different pair of glasses I would wear that I was in my therapist mode. And then I'd finish and I'd go to play a show. I had different glasses, different shoes, different. I was now rock star Jeremy, and I would go do folk star Jeremy, let's be clear. And I would do that sort of piece for a while. And I couldn't sort of figure out, am I like the therapist guy who's waiting to become the musician, or am I like these things? I don't really know. Now it's finally sort of come together. One pair of glasses, which is very much nice, more convenient. And I know that I'm both. I continue to be a therapist and I'm a songwriter. And now I'm really honing in on what some of these like messages are that I'm wanting our kids to be singing about, as I reference about how good they're feeling inside or how good they can feel inside, etc. One example, and this was a mountaintop moment for me in the last couple months. So one of the songs I wrote was this song, the first one that came out on this kids album called Be One First. If you want to have a friend, you've got to be one, be one, be one first. You've got to act friendly if you want to have friends, right? So I wrote this song, the kids loved it. We sang it all around the school. The choir teacher at that school is still there and took this song and taught it to all the first, second graders. I got to go back to their spring concert. I'm not the counselor there anymore. I quit that job last May to do more music and stuff. But I got to go back to their spring school concert and hear 100 of these little kids sing my friendship song about being one first in this school assembly. And it was so miraculous. It's so amazing. And everything that I'm hoping for, right? Like one school this year, maybe 10 next year, maybe 100. I have no idea how many I could get singing these kind of ideas. But man, is it going to help us if we do, because it just feels really good. Yeah, it has good messages in it too, but it just feels really good even when we're singing it. So I'm thrilled where this is headed. Like I said, I don't really know what's around the corner. I'm about to, I think, do some school assemblies. They're starting to invite me in to come and sing some of these songs and work with their kids. So kids in mental health and how to get us all just moving in a direction of feeling really good. I'm super excited about that. I like where this is headed.
Um, all right, so now I just got to know. So if you sit down to perform in front of a room of 50, or you're in a beautiful listening in front of 50 adults and they each have their beverages or whatever, how often throw in one of your kids' songs into your adult
Yeah,
set or vice
great.
versa?
Great. So what I found lately, so I just had a wonderful show up in Telluride, Colorado this past Friday. It was just a really great show. They do this free concert series that's on the green, and all these people come out from their houses and apartments. And what I'm so far is that On this album, Unperfect Day, there are 10 tracks. Two of them I would say are actually specifically for kids. Like I'm really talking to the kids, and here's how to like handle your kid conflict, or here's the move to use, right? Kids. The other eight are kind of kidsy, but they're much broader and they apply to everybody, like Another Perfect Day, for example. So what I'm finding is, at least so far, there's two or three, maybe even four that I'm starting to weave into my normal sets, even if it's a full adult crowd or whatever, and people are digging it. Like they're singing along, and I mean, it is all the time that people want to feel good, and I think that is more true now than ever, right? If COVID and our political world has taught me anything in the last like 5, 8 years, it is how much pain people are in. Like I had no idea how hurting so many people are. And if I can do anything to lighten that load with a little song or an idea about these thoughts feel bad, but you could think about it this way and it feels a little better. Let me give you a little example on just that front for a second. My daughter and I were talking about camping the other day. And we've done plenty of camping in our world, but we haven't done a lot recently. So we're talking about that. And her sort of conclusion was, I really miss doing that with you. And I was with her. We were talking about it, and my heart kind of hurt. And I was like, yeah, I could feel the sort of womp of it, even though that was true. I'm missing it true. And I said the corrective message, which was like, you know what? I love doing that with you, and I can't wait for us to do more. Let's plan on some more of that. Same ideas, same thing that we're talking about. I just nudged it this way a little into like what I like feel good land, what I'm wanting. Oh, I love camping with you and I totally want more of that instead of focusing on, oh, lately we haven't done very much and that makes me sad. That's the perfect example for me of like we get caught in that conundrum all the time, hundreds of times a day, and we could go over here with it or we could go over here with it. So, the last thing I want to say for now around that is that I've found that if I'm writing specifically for kids, if I know I'm writing a kid's song, there's something about that that's way easier for me. I put less pressure on myself. I'm no longer comparing myself to Noah Kahn or Gregory Alan Isaacoff or John Mayer or the people that I seek to emulate, right? It's just like, oh, I get to be fun and silly and rhyme with that goofy word. Like, okay, that's in my wheelhouse. I can do that like falling off a log. So there's something about it that's just, I mean, I'm a kind of a kid at heart. People who know me, I'm pretty silly and playful most of the time anyway. So there's something about that that's just like a really easy fit for me. I love writing for kids. I'm sure I'll do another kids album at some point. I have no doubt.
Wow. Well, in your autobiography, I want there to be a chapter on the different glasses, different shirt, and that
Totally.
person becoming the same person.
I agree.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's some
Tony
heavy
Smiley.
duty self-discovery.
Totally. It took me a long time. I mean, part of it was like the wife to husband too, right? There's all these different pieces. Like it took me a while. It's part of why my tagline on my website maybe is folk therapy for late bloomers. Because I feel like I'm a late bloomer here. I'm now 51 and I'm just sort of like figuring out who I am and why I'm here and what I want to do. But I've figured it out now. I'm really clear now. And I love that. Feels so good. I've never felt better.
I can't think of a better note to wrap up on.
Yeah, that felt good to me too.
Uh, no, I think that's the spot.
Great.
Jeremy, this conversation has been great.
Thanks, Wiley. I appreciate it a
I'm
lot.
going to go do some reflection on this.
Nice. Great. I love it.
Uh,
Good.
yeah, for those of you watching, check out Jeremy Dion. Music for young, for old, both. Uh,
Amen.
if you're in the Western United States, he's playing. But it's been a wonderful visit. I've
Thanks,
really
Wiley.
enjoyed talking with you,
Likewise.
and I've learned a lot.
Great. Thanks. Anytime. I'm happy to do it again. This is a cool experience.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks. Cheers.